Breaking news. After Kyiv makes gains in Bakhmut, Putin's forces attack towns in the east. A wave of revenge attacks from Vladimir Putin's forces have been launched after Ukrainian forces made incremental gains in blood-spattered Bakhmut. According to Hanna Maliar, Deputy Defense Minister, Ukrainian forces have retaken nearly 2 square miles of territory around the destroyed eastern city of Bakhmut in the past week. She reported that Russian forces were regrouping near the eastern towns of Kupiansk and Lyman, but that the attack was continuing regardless. After the Ukrainian army's success on the Bakhmut axis, she said, the Russians have stepped up these offensives. The armed forces are facing complete mining of the territory, cement fortifications of the key heights, and constant mortar and artillery shelling, she continued. The Russians, meanwhile, are heavily utilizing aviation. The deputy defense minister reported that troops were also vying for control of the nearby settlement of Urozhaini. A Moscow-appointed official in the occupied Zaporizhia region of Ukraine claimed on Sunday that Kyiv was trying to break through Russian lines by establishing control over the two villages. As Moscow increases military spending and Western sanctions weigh on its energy exports, the Russian ruble dropped to its lowest value since the early weeks of the war in Ukraine on Monday. As a result, the Russian central bank has called an emergency meeting for Tuesday to discuss the possibility of raising the key interest rate, which would help stabilize the ruble. The ruble's value against the dollar dropped below 101, marking its lowest level in nearly 17 months and continuing a decline of over a third since the start of the year. After the announcement from the central bank, the ruble showed some signs of recovery. Maxim Oreshkin, economic advisor to Russian President Vladimir Putin, wrote an opinion piece for TASS on Monday blaming loose monetary policy for the country's struggling currency, prompting the meeting. According to him, a weak currency complicates economic restructuring and negatively affects people's real incomes, so a strong ruble is in Russia's best interest. Local officials in the western Ukrainian region of Lviv near the Polish border reported hearing explosions this morning. Explosions again in Lviv, Lviv's mayor, Andriy Sadovy, wrote on the messaging service Telegram. It was initially unclear whether the loud booms were caused by ground targets being attacked from above or by air defense systems responding to the attack. The governor of the Lviv region, Maxim Kozitsky, issued a warning on Telegram earlier, urging people to take cover because missiles launched from Russia were on their way. The Russian government claimed on Monday that Russian bombers were intercepted by Royal Air Force jets just north of Scotland. Early on Monday morning, British Typhoon fighters were dispatched to intercept 2 Russian long-range maritime patrol bombers flying north of the Shetland Islands off the coast of Scotland. Russian Tu-142 Bear F and Tu-142 Bear J aircraft, used for reconnaissance and anti-submarine warfare, were tracked by jets launched from RAF Lossiemouth in Moray as they flew north of the United Kingdom. When asked if it was okay for Russian opera singer Anna Netrebko to perform in Prague while Russia is at war with Ukraine, city officials there said, unequivocally, no. Yuri Pospisil, Prague's deputy mayor in charge of culture, said that the city's governing coalition was unanimous on the issue. It is insensitive for such a singer to perform here in Prague at a time when the war, in Ukraine, is still going on and we read every day about the victims of the Russian attacks, Pospisil said. Throughout the conflict, the Czech Republic has been a reliable ally to Ukraine. The political parties that make up the Czech government also make up the ruling coalition in Prague. The fact that Netrebko's performance at Prague's Municipal House is scheduled for October 16 is not guaranteed in light of the view from City Hall. The decision rests with the venue's management, which also oversees its public functions. Soprano's contract would be very difficult to terminate, as admitted by Pospisil. The Metropolitan Opera in New York City severed ties with Netrebko last year after she refused to denounce her support for Russian President Vladimir Putin, and she filed a lawsuit against the opera. In 2023-24, she will perform at the Paris Opera, the Vienna State Opera, the Teatro alla Scala in Milan, and the Staatsoper unter den Linden in Berlin. On Monday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited frontline troops in eastern Ukraine, where his military has recently reported gains near the town of Bakhmut. Hanna Maliar, Ukraine's deputy defense minister, said that in the past week, Ukrainian forces retook nearly 2 square miles around the ruined Bakhmut, which was the site of some of the bloodiest fighting during the nearly 18-month war between Russia and Ukraine. Mr. Zelensky traveled to the front lines to meet with attacking brigades near the town of Soledar, which is under Russian control and located north of Bakhmut.